Hey everybody, it's Val Haller from ValsList Music. In 2012, 8 years ago, I had the extreme pleasure and opportunity of having John Oates of Hall & Oates do an intimate acoustic concert in my backyard and an interview with me. It was a thrill of a lifetime for me because I grew up on Hall & Oates music, and so you can imagine having one of your favorite bands come back to you in real life. So just listen. I hope you enjoy the show. And remember, this was shot in 2012 with not great camera and film equipment, so it's a little bit raw, but what the heck? It's better that way, right? So, can we talk about the 70s for a minute?
If you must, yes.
Can we talk about your hair and
Okay.
Daryl's hair in the 80s? I was looking back at some old record albums and the hair. Your hair was okay, but Daryl had quite a mullet going.
I don't know if you call it a mullet. It's actually kind of it was like a rockabilly on acid kind of haircut. That's really what it was.
Okay, so my question is, you were lucky enough, and I think that Bird's going to compete with us, but that's
all right.
okay.
We'll
So
be all right.
you were lucky enough to have a huge music career at a time when the music industry worked, okay? So the record labels, if they liked your stuff, they could actually probably promise you that you would be a hit. Is that true?
Well, I don't think anyone can promise anything in the music business, but I think what it was that the record business was structured in a way that they allowed the artist to make creative mistakes and develop. And it's unfortunate that in today's music business, artists are not allowed that luxury. And what happens is if they're not instantly successful, they're gone. Whereas Daryl and I made a lot of mistakes in the early days, but it ended up we found ourselves, and in the course of finding ourselves, we had tremendous success. Had we not been allowed to do that, who knows? We may not be around.
But you had radio, and so
We did have
radio was
radio.
a big player back then,
Yes.
and I think radio is different nowadays. Radio is very commercial, and whatever will sell a lot. And so I think a lot of indie artists don't get a chance on the radio, and you had radio to promote you. So do you think that was much easier than trying to make it today?
Well, let's not kid ourselves. Radio always costs money. Back in those days as well as today. Records don't necessarily get played on merit. They get played for a lot of other reasons, and we had to hire independent promoters. We had to go out and work those records, and of course, there's an old record business saying. It says it has to be in the grooves, and what that really means is it really has to have something. It has to have some appeal. It has to be catchy. It has to have a hook. It has to have something that has something that people are going to latch onto. But at the same time, it takes a lot of work to even back in the day. So, and people always used to disparage people who had hit records because we weren't cool. Especially back in the days of top 40 radio and album-oriented radio. But I always used to say, well, if it was so easy, why wouldn't everyone do it? So that's what I got to say.
Okay, so I have another question. So if you make an album like Abandoned Luncheonette, I mean, literally, anybody who's 50 in this audience or older than that remembers every lyric still. So it's stuck in our soul. When you make an album that's that big and that successful, how scary is it to make your sophomore album? Is it so much pressure? Like, now what do we do? How do we ever top that? So how did you do that? Because you went ahead and did that again and again.
The problem
was
we didn't.
Was the joke on us? Or something?
No. There was no joke. No, it was not a joke. We made Abandoned Luncheonette. It was near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. But now, 40 years later, it's become a classic. It wasn't a classic then. It was what we call a turntable hit, which means it was played on a lot of radio stations, and it was played on college radio. And we were kind of an underground cool band. So we really didn't have it. There was no precedent for us to say, well, let's do Abandoned Luncheonette 2, because it really wasn't that successful. It didn't sell that many records. So we went off and did something 180 degrees in the opposite direction. We did an album with Todd Rundgren called War Babies, which was completely heavy metal, experimental music, and people were like, what are these guys all about? But, in the end, if you look back in retrospect, when you combine the sounds of those two records, it eventually led to what we ended up doing in the 80s. And we had a palette that we were able to utilize rock, R&B, folk, acoustic, all sorts of styles, and we were able to make them our own. And had we not done those widely different records, we might not have been able to do that.
So when you write a song, you talked a lot about being a songwriter, and I love songwriters, and that's why I like a quiet audience like this, because songwriters work really hard on their lyrics. They're poets, and when they're singing to a noisy bar, you're only getting the melody. You're not getting inside their head. And so thank you guys for being so quiet tonight. And I think once you come to a show with a quiet audience, you're never going to want it noisy again. And it's such an honor.
Well, actually, I like it really noisy when I play with Daryl. Like really noisy.
Okay, do you want, like, what's the biggest
Screaming,
compliment? People
yeah.
singing your lyrics
Screaming,
and dancing?
I don't care what they're doing, as long as it, yeah.
But did you like my quiet audience tonight?
I love this audience.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, you've got the poet in you. You have to be an introspective thinker and just a deep thought guy to write those lyrics. So maybe that means you're an introvert, but then you have to go on stage and be sort of an extrovert. So was that easy for you, or was that always like a conflict for you?
I'm not driven to perform. I enjoy it, and I love playing with a great band. It's really a pleasure when the chemistry is clicking and all the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I think that's a really cool thing that happens. But I think I'm two different people. I can be very, very, simple and basic. And when I play, because I've been a professional performing musician since I've been 5, I just do something different. I just, it's funny that you should mention that, because I remember distinctly seeing Bette Midler. And I knew Bette pretty well back in New York in the early 70s. And Bette, was a very kind of, plain Jane kind of gal, if you saw her during the day. And when she put on the dresses and the high heels and the makeup and she hit that stage, it was like she was transformed. It was like she was this totally different person. And it was incredible to see. And I saw her perform so many times. And she'd come off stage and she'd be like your second grade English teacher or something. So it was really, I think it's a thing that performers have the ability to turn on. And I think it's something you develop after a period of time.
One more question about back in the day of the labels. Did they sort of own you? Like, did they tell you your look? Or did you get to pick your look?
No.
Or did they want to package you and you're like, I don't want to wear that?
No,
and then
unfortunately, Daryl and I picked our own looks. Yes, unfortunately we did. And if you've seen any of our album covers and some of the clothes we were wearing in those videos.
That was all you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, it was. And no, we actually were very fortunate. We had a manager who was a bulldog, and he kept the labels away from us and let us sink or swim on our own merits. And luckily for us, it turned out pretty well. But we did have our ups and downs. We had our fashion crisis. Many.
No, we all did in the 80s,
yes.
That's for sure.
Well, here's the thing. Everyone had their fashion crisis. You look back on your photo albums, which are, of course, hidden away in your closets. Of course, Daryl and I, our fashion faux pas are on video for the rest of our lives. So we can't hide from that crap and the really bad hairstyles and stuff.
Speaking of video, I don't remember. I used to know, but did you used to do like MTV music videos?
We were the first. We were actually one of the first people to ever be on MTV. We were friends with the people who were starting MTV, and they came to us and they said, "We're starting this new video music channel." And we were like,
and they're like, "Do you dance?"
We were like, "What's a video?" We actually didn't know. And if
see how old we all are, all
right.
of you youngsters in the back.
And they asked us to do a video right around Private Eyes. And if you watch the Private Eyes video, all it is us dressed in stupid clothes with a black curtain. And that's a video. We didn't know any better. We didn't know what to do.
Maybe if you were in black clothes, only your heads were showing.
That would have been better, actually, I think, yeah. But we weren't smart enough to do that, so.
So only a couple more questions, then I'll open it up. 2 weeks ago, you sang on The Voice. Mm-hmm. What do you think of all that stuff?
Well, talent shows have always been part of entertainment. It's really, this is just talent show taken to another level where millions of people are seeing it instead of, on a local level. First thing I ever did was a talent show in Wildwood, New Jersey. I sang on a talent show and won $20, and I thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Now, kids get out there and they play in front of 20 million people. So, it's okay. I think that you have to remember, for all the performers that have been on American Idol and The Voice and all these other shows, how many I think you can pretty much count on one or two hands the ones that have persevered and actually have made it. So, it's tough to be put up on a pedestal in that position and to be, put in that place and then you're back to pumping
and
gas.
crash.
Yeah.
But I think that's a symptom of the music industry, because they promise the winner like a big contract with a label, and then the label can't get you anywhere. If I were in charge,
if Val ruled the world,
if Val ruled the music world,
yes.
I would say take that winner and put one of his tracks on a big Cadillac commercial, and put one of his tracks on a big soundtrack of a big movie, so it would live longer and maybe more people would.
Val, what's wrong with Hall & Oates? What are you doing?
Yeah, no.
We need all that.
Who needs anyone else? And then my last question is, so you got to enjoy being a big star in the 70s, 80s, and now you're promoting a new album in 2012. Mm-hmm. And it's digital music, and it's iTunes, and it's kids stealing music, those of you in the back. And would you rather kids download your album for free somewhere illegally and let them have it just to get your sound out, or do you really feel like they owe you? Because I think everyone owes you payment for what you do.
It's a very, very, the digital world has opened up a lot of quandaries and a lot of dilemmas for everyone. The creative side, the business side, the legal side. I have mixed feelings about it. First of all, I'm very old school, and I believe that copyrights are sacred. And I believe that when a artist and a creative person creates magic, something from nothing, essentially, that has value. It has a lot of intrinsic value, and I think it should be valued very highly. And I think people, there's nothing wrong with people paying and compensating artists for their talent and their hard work and what they do. At the same time, the digital world has opened up an entire avenue for people to be heard and to spread the word about what it is you're doing. So it's really tough. On one hand, I'm really glad that people are able to, get free downloads and things like that. And on the other hand, I'm really sad that the digital world has basically completely stopped, record sales, pretty much. I mean, I think the CD is pretty much a thing of the past. It's really a marketing tool at this point. As far as I'm concerned, I make a CD, and at this point, I'm almost giving it away just to enhance my brand, basically.
Right. Some of you in the audience know what I do, but I have this music website, and my main goal on ValsList is to get busy adults acquainted with new artists that they might not find on their own. So that's what I do, for any of you who don't know what I do. And but I still like promoting people like you, because what's happening is the young kids who use my site might discover you backwards. Yep. So anyway, but let's open it up to the crowd. Yes?
I was just, that last question you presented made me think about sampling. And I know there's a Hall & Oates sample on De La Soul song, and there are things more recently that are Hall & Oates samples. How do you feel about that? Do you give permission?
Well, we were one of the first groups to be sampled, and probably one of the groups that has been sampled. In fact, the song "I Can't Go for That, No Can Do" I think is the most sampled song in pop music.
Can you describe what sampling is?
Well, sampling is when someone digitally extracts a section or a portion of a song and uses it to create something else. So basically, there are entire departments in ASCAP and BMI, which are the songwriters guilds, who are in existence to protect songwriters' rights. There's entire divisions that just sit all day and listen to pop music and try to identify samples so that they can make sure that the originator and the original composer gets compensated for those things. And Daryl and I do get compensated for a lot of stuff that has been sampled.
That's a great question. Yes?
I'm wondering, you've had a great long career, and was there some point at which you realized that you had made it? Was there an album that came out, or a concert you did, or was there some moment at which you realized, I've done it?
So when was the moment you knew?
When I could buy my own dinner. No, I don't know. It's not like that. I think a lot of people would like to idealize that moment when you go, I've made it, I'm on top of the world. It never really happens. It's just kind of this incremental thing that just, you keep stepping up, and, and you do something. You say, I want to write a song. Oh, I want to write a good song. I want to write a hit song. I want to get a record contract. I want to play a concert. I want to open for David Bowie. I want to play Madison Square Garden. And it just keeps going. I don't think, Daryl and I used to have a funny little expression that we used to use. We used to call it the invisible carrot, because it was like the carrot in front of the donkey. You keep walking toward it, but in our case, we never actually knew what we were walking toward. I think it's one of those things, really.
Yes, Sandy.
First of all, you're a hell of a solo man.
Oh, thanks.
Hell of a solo act. I agree.
Thank you.
And he's a huge music lover, that guy in the front row, so that was a big compliment.
Like every October, someone would come up and sit with one with cowboy boots. Maybe you want to ask me, would I join him with a Halloween costume? And now I know why. And I'm getting to a question. So I think one of the greatest compliments that you pay to any singer-songwriter is having the music transcend generations. And so our children are grown now, got a 24-year-old, 20-year-old, and unprompted, they've come to us and introduced us to your music. And we have to say, yeah, like that's your music.
Right.
And I also see in the crowd some young folks in the back. There's a talented singer-songwriter. I'm sure would be curious to ask, what advice would you give to an aspiring talent today?
Did everyone hear the question? There are some aspiring singer-songwriters in our audience tonight, from around here. What advice would John give them?
Well, I think the first thing you said was really the crux of the whole thing. Writing a song that stands the test of time is the ultimate goal of any songwriter. That means that what you're talking about, what you're putting out there emotionally, musically, and lyrically, really has some appeal that goes beyond fad and fashion and and time in general. Fortunately for us, we've had those songs, and every time I sit down to write, that's my goal. I don't always, you don't always hit it out of the park on every swing, but you try. And to me, it's what the whole thing that we do, everything that we do, the recording, the performing, the touring, the promotion, it's all based around songwriting. Without a song, you have nothing. You can be the greatest singer, the greatest guitar player, whatever. If you don't have a song, you have nothing. And so really, you can't lose sight of the fact that it's the foundation from which the entire music business is built on. And that's why I'm so passionate about songwriting. That's why I like doing shows like this, because on a show like this, it is the song is being showcased. It's nothing but the song. There's nothing else. Sure, it's great to have a band, and it's great to have lights and all this stuff and smoke bombs, but in the end, it's really about the song.
The path